So good morning, everyone. I hope you're all having a good day today. Thank you all for attending the 2023 Contributions and Attendance Year-End webinar. I will be your instructor for today. My name is Sam Williams, and I am a software support technician with Concordia Technology Solutions. I've been here for about 2 years now, so we've probably spoken on the phone at least once or twice. As a note, all phones and microphones have been muted. If you have any questions, type that into the questions window. We will answer all those questions at the end of the class. With me here today is my manager, Rod Kiles. So while I'm doing the webinar, he will be answering any questions in the background. Any questions left over, we will cover those during the Q&A. So today for our class agenda, we're going to be having an overview. We'll then be having our discussion. We'll then have a review to cover go over what we discussed. We'll then have a little short quiz, and then we'll have that Q&A session. So for this, we'll be having kind of a year-end overview. We'll then be going over the optimize and rebuilding databases. We'll then kind of go over backing up your database. And then, what we're actually talking about during the webinar is we're going to be talking about contributions, batches, pledges, envelopes, reports, the cleanup utility. Then in attendance, we're going to be covering batches, reports, and the cleanup utility as well. The cleanup utilities are, as you see, just optional. They're not required for the year-end process or just the year-end in general. So let's get started then. So this webinar will be using the newest available version of Shepherd Staff, which is version 9.0. You can update your software by just clicking check for software updates. And as you see, I'm on the latest version. You can only do that if you are registered and have a current support contract with us though. So just as a note, year-end utilities have been removed from all modules except for finance. Since this changed, just about all reports have dates. So users can run reports for previous years easily. As I mentioned before, though each module does have cleanup utilities, none of them are required to move on to the next year. If users want to purge the data using these utilities, it will be a permanent process that can only be undone by restoring a backup. Our recommended order for year-end tasks is contributions, attendance, membership, scheduler, and then finance. So one of the things I mentioned is optimizing the database. To do that, you just want to go to utilities and click optimize this database. You'll get a little prompt here. It says, do you want to optimize this database? We'll say yes. So really, this is just a maintenance utility. It just kind of cleans up your database and compresses it down, getting rid of any kind of bogus data that's in there. This should only be run on the server computer. So if you guys are on a network, whatever computer is the host computer, that's the one you want to run this on. If you're just, one computer has Shepherd Staff, you would just run it on that one computer. And this should not be interrupted when it's being done. So if you're on a network, what you'll want to do is make sure everyone is out of Shepherd Staff before running this utility. So, and then just making a backup. You can do this, of course, inside the software, but you can also go underneath utilities here and click backup this database, which I will do just now. And I'm going to say last location used just for the sake of it, and just say start backup. So the backup utility will only back up the current database. If you have multiple databases, users must back up each database separately. We suggest using separate flash drives. So, and the reason to do this is just for before and after running year-end tasks, just in case something wasn't correct and you need to go back. So let's get into this, and I will log in. So let's go into contributions then. And what we're going to want to do is, so we have an unposted batch here. Any batches before running any year-end utilities, you'll want to make sure you have all of your batches posted. So what I'll do real quickly, so I open this up. Here's all these offerings. So I'll just close out of here real quickly, and then we're just going to post this batch. And then, you guys may have pledges you guys record for your church. And for that, real quickly, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. And we have some pledge rules that we'll go over real quickly. So pledge rule 1, pledges can be entered at any time regardless of date. Pledge rule 2, always create new pledges for the next year. If the pledge details will be the same as last year's, you can use the copy to create a new one for this year. Pledge rule 3, 2 pledges cannot be entered for the same contributor for the same fund within the same date range. Pledge rule 4, offering records entered after the pledge is created will be credited towards the active pledge. Rule 5, offerings entered before a pledge is created won't be applied to the pledge until you use the attach offerings to pledges utility under tools/settings. Let me go back here. So what I'm going to do real quickly is add a pledge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it for one of the contributors we had in that batch I just posted, which is going to be Scott and Ashley Huffman. And I'm going to say the general fund, and the begin date is going to be for this year. I'm going to say it's a weekly amount, and I will say it is for $40. And I will just click save. And then what I will just need to do is, if we look here, we'll see that, there's nothing, we'll see there's no offerings applied to this pledge quite yet. So what we'll just need to do is go to tools/settings. So like I mentioned before, that pledge rule, if you have any offerings entered before you create the pledge, what you'll just want to do is say, go to tools/settings, go to pledge tools and say attach offerings to pledges, and then click start. We'll say for the offering year 2023, and then we will click continue. And we'll see one offering was assigned to a pledge. If we go back to giving now and go to pledges, if we go to here, we'll see that the total given, since I've now applied that pledge, is $80. So with adding pledges, as you saw before, we can just click add to add one. If you're adding pledges for the same frequency and all going to the same fund and frequency, what you can do is you can say add multiple, and that will allow you just to keep changing the pledge, who the pledge record is to, but while all keeping it to going to the same fund, same amount, same frequency. And you can also do the same thing by using the mass add utility right here. So it would just be instantaneous. It would just add it to multiple contributors for a single fund, frequency, and date range and amount. And then if we close out of here, if we uncheck this hide inactive option, we can see all of our pledges throughout the years. And so then now let's kind of go over renumbering your envelopes for next year, because that's what you'll want to do if you guys plan on changing your numbers. So what the renumber utility does is it just changes the upcoming numbers for your next year envelopes. So what you'll want to do to get to there, you'll want to go to tools/settings under contributions, and then you'll want to click renumber next year envelopes, and then we'll click start. And this will take us to a window where we can see all of our envelopes. So you can have two ways. You can kind of sort this either just by alphabet, or if you want to sort it by envelope number, you can just check this box right here. Otherwise, just leave it as that. So just kind of going over some things. So contributors are people with a person record and envelope number. There are no membership restrictions to be a contributor. A person cannot give offerings and have them be attributed to them without an envelope number, even if they don't use a physical envelope. And then contribution statements can be generated for any contributor at any time. So we kind of have 3 different types of renumbering you can do now. If we click auto number here, we can say you can use current envelope numbers for the upcoming numbers, which just means whatever number they have for this year, they're going to have the same for next year. We then have the assign upcoming envelopes incrementally in current envelope number order. What that does is, if you have your numbers slightly out of order, so you have A with with 1, and then someone whose last name starts with an S as 2. If you use this renumbering utility, it would just renumber them based on that order. So it would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, no matter, even if it wasn't in alphabetical order. The other option is you can say assign upcoming numbers incrementally in alphabetical order, starting with your number, with the number you choose to. And then we'll just click continue. And then we'll click save. Just as a note, before running the renumber utility, what you will want to do is make a backup beforehand. So one thing also before actually running the renumber utility, what you'll want to do is go into your giving and then go to contributors. And what we'll want to do is make sure we add or remove anyone who we need to before we're giving them next year envelope numbers. So for example, I'm going to add in Thomas and Mary Howard. And now I'm just going to give them envelope number 175. We'll click save. And then what we're also going to do too is go find anyone who has been removed. And the person we have here is Teresa Carter here. So let me click edit on her record. And what we're going to want to do is under contributor information, we have 2 options here. One says skip this envelope renumbering, one says does not use physical envelopes. What you'll want to do is mark those who have either left the church or who have passed away as does not use physical envelopes. And the reason for this is because this one assigns a number, 6-digit figure for that person. What skip does, and this is really useful for churches who have online givers who, maybe have an envelope number but aren't actual, don't actually have a physical envelope at the church. If you check skip, what it does is it locks down that person's current envelope number, and then they just keep that number forever. So when you do the renumbering, if I had marked Teresa as skipped, it'll go 108 and then go 110 and skip over 109 completely. So with that, what I was mentioning about the online givers, most churches, from what I've seen, they'll give them a high number like in the thousands, for example, and then mark them as skip this envelope renumbering. That way they are not included in the list, and then they still get to keep their envelope number. And then let me see here. So just kind of going back over some things, let me get rid of Carter. So the envelope number here, this is what shows up on the statements, and the upcoming number is what's going to be the new number once the next year starts. And then once you see here, see we have this skip renumber column and no envelope column. This will show anyone we have marked to not be included in the renumbering list. And then, for example, so we may have people who've left the church. In cases of death, what we'll want to do is go down to here. We're going to click edit. So in the case that, unfortunately, Arthur Dean has passed away and Virginia is now the sole giver on their envelope, what you'll want to do is go to their record, click edit like you see me doing here. And then what we'll do is, as the joint contributor, we're going to take Virginia off first, click continue. We're then going to press save to kind of update the record so only Dean is on there. And then we're going to click the pencil icon. And once there, we're going to say Dean, and we're going to select Virginia, and then click save. And since we've now updated that, we'll then close out of here. And then let me just run that renumber utility again. First, as I said before, let's make a backup. And then let us go back to contributions. And then we're going to click renumber again. So along with the auto number, as I mentioned before, you also have the option to actually manually change these. So if you wanted to do that, you could sit here and go 101, for example, click edit, enter, and I'll get you to the next line, 102, 103. Most times people seem to just want to auto number though, just it makes it easier. So we're just going to do that and click continue. Then we're going to click save. And then after you renumber, you'll usually want to wait until January 1st when you're actually going to start using your next year envelope numbers. To do that, you'll just click here, click start using next year envelope numbers, and then press the start button. This, as I mentioned before, will take the current upcoming envelope numbers and set that as the current. So this is a big utility. You only want to run this when you're ready to start actually using those new envelopes. The only way to undo this is to restore a backup of your database. And then, so now let's kind of go over some of the reports you'll print for the year end. So we're going to go to other reports. And then once we're there, usually the main report people print out is the contribution statements. So what you'll want to do is choose who and when you are going to print these statements for. So usually you could say all envelopes. What you'll want to do is then set your date range, which we're going to say to 12/31/2023. And let me just make this a tiny bit bigger. And what you'll want to do is, one thing I suggest doing is if you're printing these out for just your givers, change the giving filter to those who gave, just so you're not getting, any of those prior people who maybe have left the church but didn't give during the current year. And then just as a note too, if any of your church members have any alternate addresses, they must be active within their active date range to be printed. And one thing as a note, under options here, we have a do not print, it prefers email. That's usually selected. You can uncheck that if you want, if you're just wanting to print out statements for everyone. And then if we just click, I'm just going to do one envelope real quickly here, just so we can kind of see what it's going to look like. And we'll just click print. And then we can see all the funds we have given to. I'm going to zoom in a bit so you guys can see this a bit more. So we'll see for the date range, here's how much this giver has given to the general fund, the mission fund, the building fund, education, music ministry, and then youth adult ministries. And then we'll see underneath the giving detail here, each date that they gave. And then for each fund, they actually gave it to. What you can also do too here, we have the message option. So if you wanted to, you could click this little plus sign to add a new message. And we could say, call this one, thank you. And then you could write a little message thanking your contributors for giving to the church. Thank you for your contributions, if I can spell, to the church this year. We appreciate it. And then click save. And then what we can say is we can then use that thank you message we just created. And if we print this out, we'll then see our little message right here up at the top. So with this too, as I mentioned, you can either print these manually. If members of your church want to receive it by email, what they would have to do is under giving and contributors, they would have to have their statement method be email. And with the newest changes made to Shepherd staff, we can email through both the 32-bit or 64-bit versions of Outlook. We can only unfortunately send it out through Outlook currently. And then let's go over the next report, which is going to be the envelope box labels report. So usually, you're going to print this for all of your upcoming envelopes just to get those labels printed out. So what we'll do is under include, this is up to you guys, but I've seen some churches where they like to include the mailing address. And then what we can just do is we click print. We can then see all of our contributors and their upcoming envelope number. So just kind of reviewing over this, what you'll want to do is you'll want to set your style for your labels. Avery 5160 is probably the most common. And then what you'll want to say is the envelope to use is upcoming envelope number. And then I'm going to include, these are really personal options. So you can either uncheck options, or if you wanted, you could use this custom line for last text. So you could say, please do not use until January 1st. And when you print that out, you'll see underneath each of the labels, it says do not use until January 1st. And then underneath there, so that's pretty much it for the envelope box labels. If you guys have any gifts in kind given to your church, or someone gave, had one of those, what you'll want to do is you'll want to go to contribution statements. And then once you're underneath contribution statements, underneath show here, you can say, it's already pre-selected, but if gifts in kind is selected, when you print out your statement, you'll see a gift in kind marked there on the record. And then for the contributions by week, what you'll want to do is to get that report, you're going to want to go to analysis. And once you're underneath analysis, what you'll want to do is go to the giving patterns. And once under giving patterns, what you'll want to do is, choose who you want to send it to. Since we're doing this for 1 year, we're going to say across 1 year only and ending on 12/31/2023. And we're going to say aggregated by calendar week. And if you want to, you can kind of get, you can say by fund. And then this will be click find here. This will then show us for each week what was the offerings given to each of the funds in our database. And if you want to, you can then click export to get this out of contributions. Then after that, we have the fund summaries report. In 8.9, it's a bit different how you get it compared to the prior version. The best way to get the fund summary report is to go to summaries and then choose by fund day. And what you'll want to do is once here, you'll want to type in the date range you're looking for. So for example, we're looking for this year. So we're going to type in 1 2023. And with the search fields in Shepherd Staff, you'll have to do something a bit special to kind of get it to look for both dates. What you'll want to do is click the Shift key on your keyboard and then press \, which will get you that vertical bar you see here on my screen. And then what we'll just do is we will then type in our second date, which is 12/31/2023. And then we'll click enter. And we should now have all of our offerings from 2023. And then to actually get the fund summary report, what you should do is go to print at the bottom and then select by fund. And then once here, just click select. And this will then show you how much was given to each fund, how much was from pledges, how much was from not pledged, and then give you a grand total at the very bottom. What you may also want to do too, depending on what you're looking for, is once you click print, you may want to try the by fund month report, because this will then break out each account and show you how much was given for each month that there were offerings. And then we have underneath here, we're going to go to other reports. Most of the reports you're looking for year end will be under the other reports. It's just for, as we saw, the fund summary and the contributions by week. Those will be underneath analysis and summaries. And then so once we're here, we're going to go to contributions. We're going to go by giving by household giver / fund. And if we do, we can change how we want to group this. We could say envelope number fund, and we can click print. And this will then print out for each giver what funds they gave to, when the last time they contributed date range was, and then as you see, how much they gave for each fund, and then a grand total for what they gave for the year. And so now let's go over the cleanup utility in contributions. So this is just optional, but if you run this utility, it will delete all pledges and offerings more than 10 years old. So I mean, it's a complete wipe, so you would want to make a backup of your database just in case before running this, because the only way to undo it is if you have a backup from before then. Okay, and let me click cancel here. And then, so that's pretty much all you would need to do for the year and for contributions. Now let's go over attendance. So as I mentioned before with contributions, any batches you have, you'll want to make sure those are posted before running any year-end reports. So we're going to click yes to post this. Okay, now that has been posted. So now you want to just print your reports. You can get the different views in here. You can get a variety of different reports. So we could print, wouldn't necessarily say to print the detail, but you could say by person event to see for each person when was the last time they attended and their percentage of attendance for a date range. But most of the reports you're going to be looking for are underneath other reports. So you'll probably want to be running the attendance by event. And I would say change the type to event, and then change the group by to person. And then if we click, let me change the attendance here to 1/1/2023, and then do 12/31/2023. We'll just click print real quickly. And then let me zoom in here a bit. So this will show for each person how many times they worshiped, communed, or how many times they attended Sunday school, or the other options you have. And then give you a grand total on the times they attended, and then when the last time they attended. It will also show what events each person attended. So for example, we'll see with Jacob Abbott, he attended contemporary worship and Sunday school. And so let me then close out of here. We then have the attendance comparison report. And usually I would say just to run this for from the prior year to the current year. And we could say the period is, depending on what you want to look at, you could say weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, to kind of get a better idea on if your attendance is going up or if it's going down. So over here, we see for each week, how many for the contemporary worship and then Sunday school, what the attendance looks like. I'll just take a look at the yearly one real quickly. Yeah, and this shows just for each month the total attendance, and then gives us a average per month and then a grand total on the total attendance for each year. Okay, and then once here we have tools/settings, and we have that cleanup utility here as well. So also, before you do anything, make sure you run a backup, because this does let you remove individual attendance detail that is over 10 years old, but it completely removes it. So it only gets rid of the detail information, any information underneath events. So showing, we had a total of 71 non-visitors, which are just members, and then total of 9 visitors. None of this information would be affected, but the information under detail would. All right, then let me minimize this and pull this back up. So now we're going to kind of have our review of what we discussed. So you're going to want to perform your year end in this order. So you're going to go contributions first, attendance, membership, and then scheduler and finance are independent and can be done at any time. And then remember these basic steps: update and enter all data. This includes updating envelope numbers and posting batches, run any needed reports. This includes contribution statements and attendance comparison. And then make a backup. Making a new backup before completing each module's year-end task will give you a fallback point to go to if something is incorrect after running the year-end procedures. And then complete year-end tasks for the module, then check your data afterwards to verify changes. Note, make another backup when year-end tasks are complete. And then now let's have our quiz to kind of go over what we discussed. So give me just one moment. We're going to have a true and false question, and I am going to launch a poll. So you should see a option appearing on your screen. So the optimize this database utility should be run on all computers that have Shepherd staff. Okay, it looks like most of you have voted, so I'm going to close the poll. And then let's go to the answer. So the answer is false. The optimized database utility will run its checks on the database for all users and all computers that are connected to the database. If one person runs the utility, the rest of the staff will not need to. Now let's go to the next question. Oh, as a note, running this utility does not delete any data. So true or false, all offerings and attendance batches should be posted prior to running your final year-end reports. Okay, I've just launched that. So just answer the question and we'll go from there. All right, most of you have voted, so I'm going to close the poll. And the answer is true. Please post all of your contributions and attendance batches before generating any year-end reports. Otherwise, your year-end totals will be short and inaccurate. Then another true and false, pledges can be entered at any time regardless of today's date or the pledge date. Okay, looks like most of you guys have voted, so I'm going to close the poll. And the answer is true. Shepherd staff allows users to enter next year pledges now, and it allows a pledge to be added once a pledge drive has been started. Please remember to recalculate pledges if offerings were present prior to the creation of the pledge. And then this is the final question. True or false, you are required to run the cleanup utility each year for each module. All right, looks like most of you guys have voted once again, so I'm gonna close this. And the answer is false. Running the cleanup utility is optional. This utility permanently deletes records from your database. This means you can no longer reference or report on that information. Please exercise caution when running the cleanup utility. And then do you guys have any questions? Let me see here. Yeah, so the video will be available later, and we also, we'll also send it out to you as well, I believe. Yep, I see. I don't see who the asker was, but like I just mentioned, if you are interrupted during the webinar, the information will be made available later. We'll also post it to our resource center on concordiatechnology.org, along with inside of Shepherd staff itself. If you go up to, actually, let me just show you real quickly. If you guys are still here, if we go up to help up at the top and then click on training videos, we have our webinars that we record here. So let me just scroll down. Here we go. So here's a one from last year, which is the contributions and attendance year-end webinar. So those videos will also be posted inside of the software here. Oh, okay. Looks like someone wanted to get the 5 rules for pledges that you mentioned. So let me go back to my PowerPoint, and we're going to kind of just go backwards a bit. Okay. So I'll repeat them a bit slower this time, but pledge rule 1, pledges can be entered at any time regardless of date. And let me see here. Let me actually just respond to this one. this. Okay, let me see here. You know, if you guys don't have any other questions, you guys are feel free to leave. I'm just answering Jane Gisquelis, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, about the pledge rules. For Paul Robinson, I'll check about that, see if we can print out the PowerPoint. Okay, Karen, let me go back over the review real quickly. So you'll want to perform the year end in this order: contributions, attendance, membership, and then scheduler and finance are independent and can be done at any time. And then remember these basic steps. So update and enter all data. This includes updating envelope numbers and posting batches, run any needed reports. This includes contribution statements and attendance comparison. And then make a backup. Making a new backup before completing each module's year-end task will give you a fallback point to go to if something is incorrect after running the year-end procedures. Complete year-end tasks for the module, then check your data afterwards to verify changes. Note, make another backup when year-end tasks are complete. And that's pretty much it for the review. Sorry, Jane, I was actually typing you up a response for all the pledges, but I will go back to those pledges. And then let me see here. Thank you for that, Walter. I will also do that and kind of add some color to that. Thank you for that information. And let me see here. Jane, do you want me to move forward to the next pledge? Okay. Dottie's question at 10:45. Let me see about, I'll have to check to see if we can print this out and then send it to you guys. But we should be able to do that. And then Jane, just let me know once you've gotten pledge rule 4 down as well, and I'll move to pledge 5. Okay, well, does anyone else have any other questions? So I believe I've answered everyone else. Well, all right then. Since we've gotten everything, let me just kind of speed through, get back to the end of my PowerPoint. But thank you all for attending today. I hope you all have a good rest of your day now. So and I will just end this session since everyone seems to have gotten their questions answered. If we missed you, we will send you a follow-up. And so let me